welcome to our channel, where we bring you the most spine-chilling stories from the past. Today, we have a story about a woman named Penelope Cumberbatch. She was a woman in her mid-30s, widowed and alone in the world. She had no family or friends to turn to. But her life took a dark turn when a man with a satchel starts following her. Soon, strange things began to happen around her, and she slips deeper into the dark recesses of her mind. What happened to Penelope Cumberbatch? Stay tuned to find out. Penelope Cumberbatch was a woman of 36 years of age, widowed and alone in the world. She had no family or friends to turn to. She was a beautiful woman, with long dark hair and piercing blue eyes. But her beauty was marred by the sadness that seemed to cling to her like a shroud. Penelope had been haunted by the ghost of her past for many years. It was a memory that she could not escape, no matter how hard she tried. It was the memory of her husband, who had died in a tragic accident just 2 years after they were married. Penelope had loved her husband deeply, and his death had left her shattered. She had turned to prostitution as a way of numbing the pain, but it had only made things worse. She felt dirty and ashamed, and she knew that her husband would never have approved of what she was doing. It was better than being alone. Alone with the voices and memories of her past life she once knew. One night, as Penelope was walking home from a client's house, she thought she had seen a figure in the shadows in the corner of her eye. She swore it was a man with a satchel, and he was following her. Penelope quickened her pace, but in her mind the man kept following her. She turned down an alleyway, hoping to lose him, but he followed her still. She could hear his footsteps behind her, getting closer and closer. The alleys in London were dark, with little visible light from the lanterns. Suddenly, Penelope felt a hand on her shoulder. She spun around, but there was no one there. She looked around frantically, but the man with the satchel had disappeared. Penelope ran home as fast as she could, her heart pounding in her chest. She locked the door behind her and collapsed onto the floor in tears. The next day, Penelope went to see a psychic. She hoped that the psychic could help her understand what was happening to her. The psychic told Penelope that she was being haunted by the ghost of her husband. He had come back to warn her about something, but she didn't know what. Penelope was terrified. She didn't know what to do or where to turn. She felt like she was losing her mind. That night, Penelope went to bed early. She hoped that she would be able to get some rest and forget about the ghost that haunted her. But as she lay in bed, she heard a noise outside her window. It sounded like someone tapping on the glass. Penelope got out of bed and walked over to the window. She looked out into the darkness and saw a figure standing in the shadows. It was the man with the satchel. Penelope screamed and ran out of the room. She ran down the stairs and out into the street. As she ran, she realized that the man with the satchel wasn't following her anymore. He had disappeared once again. Penelope stopped running and looked around. She saw something lying on the ground nearby. It was a satchel. Penelope picked up the satchel and opened it. Inside, she found a letter from her husband. The letter explained that he had faked his own death because he couldn't bear to live without Penelope. He had been watching over her all these years, trying to protect her from harm. Penelope collapsed onto the ground in tears. She realized that she had been wrong about everything. Her husband wasn't dead after all. He was alive,